Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather today. I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin. I'd like to talk about the weather health stresses for June 6, 2026. We do keep additional graphics available at tpatw.com. We also maintain a storefront on Amazon. Looking at the surface map for Saturday early this weekend, we do have one significant front hanging all the way from San Francisco to Missoula. Lots of unsettled weather here across Montana, really picking up portions of northern Wyoming. We have another front stretching all the way from Wyoming, but becoming really active about Des Moines, stretching across Detroit and all the way up to the tip of northern Maine. Note there is a large swath of unsettled weather across the Ohio Valley, across the middle Atlantic states, and all the way across New England. We still have that strong Gulf flow up into the plains, keeping a lot of unsettled weather up in through Texas into Oklahoma. And I think there'll be an extra lot of activity going on right here about the Iowa area. Looking at our vitality index, which is that individual element of all of the weather elements that might have some difficulty in human health, and we have a lot of activity up and down the plains, getting very active again here in that Iowa area, and we still have some kind of activity going on here in northern Maine. Looking at pressure change, which is something, of course, that we all do look at all the time for arthritis, for headache, for migraine, and we have falling pressure here from the panhandle of Utah up and across Wyoming into Montana and probably portions of South Dakota. We also have falling pressure across the portions of New England. We have rising pressure, but mainly across the Michigan Upper Peninsula. Looking at temperature change, and there's not a lot of activity going on here in change, although we're into the heat of summer. So now we're only talking about significant changes, and we do have falling temperatures here in the Pacific Northwest. But note that we do have some very bubble-like high rising temperatures here across El Paso and West Texas, stretching probably all the way to Alpine, maybe even reaching Midland, Odessa. Little bit of bubble of warmth here in South Dakota. Looking at the change in dew point, and again, it is not really significant, although we're maintaining that southerly flow up the plains, but the vapor pressure picks that up a little bit more, showing a lot of moisture flowing all the way from Louisiana clear on up into Indiana and Ohio. And we do have that moisture still hanging about South Florida. Looking at the instability index, or really the activity for showers, thunder showers, more significant type thunderstorms, and you can see it continues to follow that flow up the plains. And again, notice we have a lot of activity centered right about Iowa, western Illinois, and maybe even picking up portions of Kansas and Nebraska. That looks like the heart of the unsettled weather. Looking at the change in oxygen availability, it looks like migraine risk will stretch all the way across California, from the south, especially significant here about San Francisco, and then pushing on into western Nevada, across Oregon, southern Idaho, and up into Washington, even touching portions of far western Montana. Note that we have a risk of migraine here once again, maybe about Midland, Odessa, then picking up here in Oklahoma Panhandle area, and then pushing on, especially across Kansas, up and across Missouri, so western Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. We also have a risk of migraine here in northern Wisconsin, the Michigan Upper Peninsula. Looking at the risk of asthma and arthritis, again, we move back to extreme eastern Montana and the Dakotas, especially South Dakota. Note, very interesting here in El Paso and West Texas and in southern New Mexico. We also have a risk of asthma and arthritis right along extreme southern Florida, Miami area. And then there is a risk of asthma and arthritis right along the eastern seaboard, getting a little bit more significant here in Connecticut and Massachusetts. Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Your comments are appreciated, and if you hurt, tell us where you're located.